Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the SH Figuarts Dragon Ball Z Son Goku, a Saiyan raised on Earth version, which is a long way of saying the new Goku on the new body with the normal hair. And it's good. It's pretty good. I think most people are probably going to get this, even though it's another Goku figure. I do think, personally, it's the best Goku figure. For my taste, I could definitely see people making arguments against certain proportions and things like that, but I like it. I think this is the most like Goku of all the figures, and I'm going to compare it to a whole bunch of them. We'd be here all day if I compared it to literally every other figure, but I've got like 10, maybe not 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 other Gokus to compare it to. So you guys will have your fill of Goku after this video. But there is definitely some stuff to talk about, so let's go ahead and get it off the stand and take a closer look. And this guy stands just about, let's say to the top of his head, about 14 centimeters. To the top of his hair, closer to 16. Of course, the hair does stick up quite a bit. And that's going to make him just about, let's say, 5.5 to the top of the head and about 6.25 to the top of the hair. And now the first comparison I want to make, which is the most direct comparison based on this look for Goku, and that is the SDCC version of basically the same look. I don't think it's even worth comparing. Honestly, I think the new one looks leagues better. Leagues better. Not necessarily the orange. I mean, that's completely subjective. You can make an argument either way. I personally like the lighter orange, but again, you could make the argument, so that's fine. The blue in the shirt is a little bit darker. It's a little more saturated for the wrist things and the belt, a little bit lighter. The boots are basically the same colors except for the bottom. They went with the orange bottoms for the new figure and the yellow for the old figure, and both can be accurate depending on which reference you're looking at, so I think that's okay. Skin tone's just a little bit paler. Face, I'm going to put it right out there right now. This Goku has the best faces, I think, out of all of them. They're really, really good. Very nicely done. I don't have any issues with them. I didn't have any issues with this Goku's faces when it came out, but now looking at them side by side, the new one makes the old one look a little bit weird. Just a little bit weird. So I'm very happy about that. I do like the hair sculpt a little bit better. This one's kind of just a little bit weird, and this one looks, to me, a lot more accurate, so I'm very happy about that. It is worth noting that the logos on the shirt, this one's got a white background, this one's got a tan background. Same thing for the back. So that's something to consider. I guess probably both are accurate depending on which references you look at. I didn't check that because I think that's the case. But it's interesting to see the differences. Okay, now, since these are the closest ones, that's why I spent the most time talking about it. But there are a couple other ones I think I want to show you up close like this in the video part. And then I'll have the other ones at the end just because, like I said, we'd be here all day if we're going to compare every little detail. The next thing I want to talk about is the red hair Goku. He's definitely slimmer. They do reuse some parts here and there on this guy. I don't know. It might be the under torso. Might be reused. It's hard to say, the lower part of the torso. But otherwise, I think it might just be some of the boots. The legs are kind of hard to tell. I don't think this figure uses the same legs. It's like the exact same sculpt, just slightly tweaked. So I'm pretty sure it's a digital sculpt, and then they just modified it a little bit. But I've seen Bandai do traditional sculpting for their figures too, and I don't know if that's just prototypes or what. But either way, it's definitely broader, especially in the chest and in the arms. So if you were worried about the red hair Goku being too thick, he's not. I think it's perfectly fine the way it is. He's definitely trimmer than this one. Not taller, though, so that's something to consider. But I think it's fine. Very, very happy with the overall aesthetic between the two. And I know you're thinking about swapping heads. We'll talk about that in a minute. Now, compared to the Super Saiyan 3 Goku, I do think these guys reuse more parts from each other. But, like you can see, the chest is not the same. I'm pretty sure it's only the front of the chest that's different. I think the back of the torso, I should say, might be the same sculpt. It's a little hard to say due to the different colors and the logos and things, but I'm pretty sure the backs might be the same, which means I'm just kind of sure. But the fronts are obviously definitely different, and so I like that. You don't have a bunch of the same figure on your shelf anymore, so that's a big step in the right direction for Bandai. We've had a lot of Gokus that use the same body and other characters, and now they're starting to give us some more variation. Even if it's only the front part of the chest, that's a big difference, so I'm happy about that, and obviously we have the belt here. Oh, also, it's worth noting this belt is articulated. This one, if I remember correctly, yeah, this one's not. So that's another bonus for this. So yeah, the arms are, I think the arms are the exact same. They might be slightly adjusted, but I'm pretty sure they're the same. So yeah, he does have a little bit more thickness for the base form now, which I think is fine. And I think overall it looks really good. This guy's torso obviously is a little bit bulkier, and his neck is, or at least the way the head sits on it makes it look like it. So yeah, a little bit of a difference, but not too much for this set. Okay, now there's two more I want to show you up close, and that's because of head swappability. These are the two that most directly swap. Okay, the head on this guy does not directly, easily just pop off and swap on, and they fit properly with any of the other figures that I've tried except for this one and one other one. And even these aren't perfect swaps, but these take no modification and will be usable at least to some extent. Now obviously there's no point in comparing the body. It's mostly the same body as the other figure we already looked at, but the head swap. Let's go ahead and show you what that's like. It's not the exact same peg, but the skin tone on this Goku does match well enough that if you really wanted to have the Super Saiyan hair on this body, this is the easiest one. You can see the head sits on the neck properly. The ball peg's just a little bit loose. So you could just put like a little piece of plastic in there from the packaging, like the protective plastic, or a little piece of paper or something just to stiffen up that ball peg. But even though the face has shading on it, the rest of the head matches the skin tone well enough that you could do it. And that goes to show, like I said, there's not a lot of direct swapping available on this figure. So the other one I want to show you is actually the easiest to swap and the most direct, which is kind of weird. But it does work, and that's this one. Wouldn't have expected it, and I don't know what kind of versatility there is to it unless you just really want to have a base head on this body, but you can do it. And I'll show you the pegs are still not the same, but it does work. So if you want to put the blue hair on this body, it matches almost perfectly. I don't know if anybody would want to, but I know people are going to ask. So I'm showing you the best options in terms of actual physical swapping. Practicality-wise, I don't know. And then even though this does use those old shoulders, you can swap the head onto it, and it does work. So you do have some options if you want to swap some parts. I tried with Gohan, I tried with other ones. None of them are direct swaps. They all take would require modifications. So I'm not going to get into that because I'm not here to explain how to modify everything to make it work. Just wanted to let you guys know which ones work directly. And this right here, this combo is basically just a hot swap, no problem at all. So that's that as far as swapping the heads go. I will have more pictures at the end about comparing the different Gokus and Gohan, just because I know some people are going to want to make that work, even though it's not going to be a direct swap. One thing, I guess I'll mention this briefly, I was kind of hoping this swap was going to be something that worked properly, but it doesn't. So that's kind of a bummer. That definitely takes some modification, and as you can see, the skin tone's very different. Very pale, not pale at all. So be aware of that. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's talk accessories. This guy has 4 different faces. We have the smiling face that comes on him in the package, then we have the kind of neutral stern face, we have the teeth gritted face, and then we have the yelling face. And I think these are the best faces, bar none, for Goku. They don't have any issues, as far as I can tell, that stand out, like the eyes being too high or too wide or anything. They just look fantastic, especially the smiling face. I love it. I think it's by far the best. So very good on them for that. As far as hands go, we have the 2 fist hands. We have the 1 waving hand or karate chop hand. We have the instant transmission hand. We have the 2 martial arts hands, and then 2 clenching hands or kamehameha hands. And if you have the power pole from San Diego Comic-Con, you do get 2 gripping hands for that. Then of course you do get the power pole with that set. It was a free thing at Comic-Con. That's because the power pole is just a non-sculpted rod of, I think, palm. It looks like palm. Could be ABS. Hard to say. I think it's palm, though. Either way, it's just red rod of plastic. You can buy something like that on eBay and maybe swap out some hands from a different figure if you really needed to. But you do get those gripping hands and the rod in that special power pole set. And that's it for accessories. So it is a more basic release. That's why it's a lot cheaper. But I do think for what you're paying, you're getting a heck of a figure. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. If you didn't notice, as we were swapping out the heads, we do still have the lousy ball hinge ball peg combo. So it will swivel around in the neck. But you really can't use this without taking the head off and then moving that joint and then putting the head back on, other than just, I mean, obviously you can use the hinge while it's still connected, but that swivel part at the bottom really just doesn't work effectively. A double ball peg would be way better, As you can see, you can use the hinge, but rotating it around is going to be a hassle. So be aware of that. The neck is articulated though, and you can get the poses done. It's just a matter of convenience and efficiency, and that's just not the best joint. But as you can see, it works fine. You're just going to have to actually do it. For the shoulders, we have a butterfly joint again, which wasn't painted. I don't know why they did that. With the sleeve up here especially, they should have painted the inside butterfly joint orange, or just molded it in orange because it doesn't need to be painted. Because it doesn't need to be skin tone in there. I mean, that would have been fine if it was orange and just this part was skin tone. I don't get it, but it is there, so you have the butterfly joint if you really want it. It's ugly and not that useful, so that's kind of an issue. But you do have the ball peg that connects the arm to the butterfly joint, and you have the hinge, so you can raise the arm up pretty well. It doesn't go quite to horizontal, especially if you have this tucked under. So it's not the best range, but it'll do. You have full rotation, of course. You have your bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, which gives you way better than 90 degrees, so that's good. Ball hinge for the wrist, which is pretty much standard for your Dragon Ball figures, so that works just fine. The diaphragm joint, not the best in the world again. It does have the hinge and the ball peg combo, but the hinge part doesn't work that well. If you lift it all the way up, which you can do, by the way, so if you want Goku to look a little bit taller, have a little bit of a longer torso, which is sometimes the case in some artwork, you can do that, and it looks okay. But if you want to keep it down and scrunched with the shorter torso, you can do that. But when you lift it up, you're supposed to get a lot better range going forward, I presume, but you really get almost none. I mean, practically speaking, his leaning forward and back is really minimal if you don't use the hips. It's very, very minimal. Let me try to hold it steady at the bottom. That's it going forward, that's it going back. So it's pretty basic. You can lean around on that ball peg, like it rotates around and leans no problem side to side, but forward and back, just not so much. So it's kind of a bummer. Rotation is fairly minimal as well. Belt is a floating piece, so that's kind of nice. And as you saw earlier, this part rotates, which is a big bonus. I like that a whole bunch. Now for the hips, they do go pretty far forward, but due to the sculpt of the crotch piece itself, they don't go much farther than horizontal. They do go all the way back though, so that's nice. You can do full on front splits, so that's good. You can go out to the side on the hinge, but not quite into the splits. I do think that's good enough, and I like that they're nice and stiff, and it's not real gappy or anything, so that's good. I know some people still don't like this new joint design, but it's easily the most effective. It's fine. Is it the absolute best at every single aspect? No, but overall, combining aesthetics and function, I think it's pretty good. And you do get your thigh swivel in there, so that's fine. Double jointed knee is functional. Still pretty ugly, though. It'll do. It's not the worst we've seen, so it's okay. Ankle is a double ball peg, so you can't lean the foot too far forward, unfortunately. It goes back pretty far, but it creates a big gap. But the cool thing is you do get a decent ankle rocker out of it. Now, these ball pegs are fairly loose, though, so be careful. You may end up having to take some shelf dives. But it does work, so that's nice. And then you have a toe hinge, which has really good range, but unless you go all the way, it's not very stiff, so be aware of that. Then the last thing I want to mention is it does have a little bit of shading on the orange. No shading on the skin or the blue, unfortunately. The shading on the orange is super minimal, but it is there, so that's okay. So ultimately, yeah, I definitely recommend this Goku. It's, I think, the best overall Goku, especially if you count the aesthetics as a major factor. I like it a whole bunch, especially the faces, and especially that the shoulders are fixed. So, yeah, there are definitely some issues, but I think especially for the price point, you can't beat it, so I think you need to pick one up. So, there it is, guys. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you come back for that, and in the meantime, keep collecting.